What's going on, everybody? How are we doing? Today is what? Is it Thursday already or is it Friday? Let me check. Today is Thursday. All right. The week's been a blur. I've spent a lot of time in code these last couple of days, so it's easy for everything to just kind of blur together. How we doing? Instagram, we've got Zays Express, John the Tin Man, Great Life of Sean, welcome, David, Tom42, subs. I love it. Dev something, Life of Son. Welcome everybody from Instagram. How's it going? TikTok. We've got Turbo Jams and other things. It keeps flipping through so fast. YouTube. What's going on, Martin Velanov? I don't know why I said that with an accent. It just kind of felt like I should give some extra pronunciation for that last name there. So let's see. We've got Misk Tweet, X Leon 2, Jan Dyer, Screamer 651. Everybody from TikTok's hopping in. Great to have you here. So today is a great day. All right. Today is a fantastic day because it's always a great day when you're a programmer, right? Life's always good. Oh, but it's a great life. I couldn't be more stoked and grateful to be a programmer and the lifestyle it's provided for me. So welcome everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason. I'm a full stack developer here at DevSlopes. I primarily work in the MERN stack, Mongo, Express, React, and Node. And I am the DevSlopes Web Academy instructor, coach, mentor, and all that. I work with students every day, and I help them learn how to code, and then I help them apply those skills they've worked so hard for and how to make money with it, how to land freelance jobs, or whether that be an actual job or whatnot. So we're going to be talking about some things, how to become a better developer. If you have questions about that, go ahead and leave some comments below. And then also let me know if you're new to programming and if you could use some direction on what type of technologies or languages you should be learning as a beginner. Martin says that he's worked with MERN too. That's awesome. So I started out originally with the mean stack, same technologies, Mongo Express, but then Angular and Node. For my first taste at programming, getting into Angular, that was a really steep learning curve because, you've got TypeScript and then everything in Angular has a very Angular specific syntax. And so being new to programming and still trying to grasp the concepts of things, jumping into Angular so soon actually was just really confusing for me, and it slowed me down for learning because I still didn't understand JavaScript completely and the true differences, where the line was drawn between, all right, this is JavaScript, this is Angular. All right, so Joshua on YouTube says, hey, Jason, I've got 1 week to prepare for a coding interview with AWS. Please advise me on how to prepare. So Joshua, what I would do is I would Google common interview questions for AWS or common like developer or technical questions for AWS. AWS is gaining a lot of popularity. I see it popping up everywhere in the job market, like people looking for an AWS developer. So I would look into, the most common JavaScript, or I don't know what other framework you're working with to integrate with AWS, but look up whatever programming language you're working with, common interview questions, and then common interview questions for AWS. Hopefully with AWS, you've gone out and you've tried to build some of your own projects with it, because that's going to help you understand it better. It's going to help you learn how to problem solve and solve things versus just following a tutorial on AWS. It's really hard to understand how AWS actually works when you're just following along with the tutorial, because you're not really being forced to learn it, right? You're just following along. So I hope you've built some projects already. What's going on, C89HD? Welcome to today's stream. I'm going to take some questions from TikTok here, then we're going to move to Instagram, then I'm going to get back over to YouTube, and we're going to keep doing that cycle. All right, what do we have here? Exilian, hey, hello. To be honest, I'm interested in programming to make money and have a niche to work in. What would be your advice? So Exilian 2, my advice to you would be first, choose a programming path. All right. Make the decision of what you want to code. What kind of projects do you want to code and to work on? All right. Because that decision is going to determine what kind of programming languages you actually learn. So, for an example, we'll keep this simple here. If you want to do web development, I would start with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React. If you want to build iPhone apps, you're going to learn Swift. If you want to do Android apps, you're going to learn Kotlin. All right. And then if you want to do like AI or machine learning or something, Python is the most popular programming language for that. All right. So choose a programming path. Just shut out what everybody says, like, oh, you've got to learn this or this or this because it's so popular. No, if it doesn't line up with what you want to do with programming, then it's a waste of time to learn. All right. Let's see. Any tips on web development? Consistency and repetition. So I'll just take you through a couple of steps here. So first, obviously, we're going to learn HTML. You'll spend a couple of weeks in that, maybe 2-3 weeks. Okay, you're going to learn CSS. You might spend a week or two in CSS. All right, and then the real thing that you need to do next to really learn it, learn web development, is start building replicas of different websites. All right, and really utilize Flexbox and the CSS grid. Because the hardest thing with website design is layout. It's the most frustrating thing as a web developer. So understanding how Flexbox and CSS grid works, that's a great thing. So you could go to the Google homepage with the search bar and try to build that, replicate it. All right, you could go to like CodePen has a really interesting UI. You could try to replicate that. Some of your other websites, right? Then you're going to dive into JavaScript. All right, and you got to remember that programming is a journey. All right, it just takes time. It'll probably take you anywhere from 5 months to a year to become proficient in JavaScript. And what I mean is to be able to just sit down, write some code that does something meaningful, code that can think and do logic and things like that, that can actually do and perform something. All right. A lot of people enter JavaScript and after like 2 months, they're like banging their head on the table. They're like, oh, this sucks. Like, I'm just not grasping it. And it's like, no, you are grasping it. It takes time. All right. Like I said, programming is a journey. All right. And then after you've done JavaScript, even after you've been in JavaScript for like, I don't know, I would say like 2 or 3 months, you can dive into something like React. And I always recommend React for a couple of reasons, because it's a very smooth transition from JavaScript into React, because it uses JavaScript in a way that you're already familiar with. And there is a high demand for React developers. So there's companies hiring for React developers, and there's a lot of freelance work available for React. Vue.js is another great, platform or programming language to learn after JavaScript. It's similar to React in the sense that it's a UI library, but Vue.js is good for freelancing. Okay, there just isn't companies hiring Vue.js developers. Maybe a handful of a few startup companies, but you're not going to find it in larger companies. All right, so that is what I'd recommend. What do you think about headless CMS? I love it, Rookie. I love headless CMSs. So the DevSlopes website, go to devslopes.com. I built that website using Next.js, which is a framework built on top of React. And then I've got a headless CMS in there pulling in a lot of the content. And the one that I've always been a fan of is Contentful. And I like headless CMSs because it allows you to build your website with any technology, right? And so it's a complete custom solution. And then you can just pull in data versus using something like WordPress or Squarespace, where it's like, cool, it can manage all your content, but then you're stuck within that sphere, like its limitations. So yeah, headless CMSs are awesome. Johnny Poez, how long does it take to learn Java or Kotlin as a beginner? All right, 2 comments about that. If you are doing Android development, you should learn Kotlin. Okay, that's what the entire Android community is pushing. It's Kotlin, 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 Kotlin. Okay, the other cool thing, and the reason you don't really need to know Java, is because Kotlin is backwards compatible. That means if you get hired at a company and their Android app is built using Java, you can immediately start coding in Kotlin. All right, and it injects beautifully with Java. Okay, it's backwards compatible. Plus, the syntax is a lot easier, and you'll actually write 40% less code using Kotlin versus Java. How long does a programmer career last? For the rest of their life. We live in a world where people need software. They need websites, they need software, they need apps. So a programmer's life is going to go on forever. And here's the thing. I know there's some companies that, you have to retire by a certain age or whatnot, but there is such a demand for programmers that you can really just keep your job forever. My dad is in his mid 60s. He's a Java developer, and there is no end in mind for his, career, for the job that he's at, because he's a fantastic programmer and the company has a need and he feels that. And so it doesn't matter how old you are. We've got a gentleman in our iOS Academy, and, I think he was a truck driver, or he might have worked at Walmart, something like that. Just, an average job. He learned iOS development. He's 55 and he landed a job as an iOS developer. So I don't see any, end to a programming career, because you can still always freelance. It doesn't matter how old you are. You could do it when you're 80. What do you suggest doing to make money on the side for a software consultant? So I did a lot of freelance work when I was first learning to code. I think after like a year and a half of coding, I got into freelance work, and that's what I did for another year and a half. That's how I provided for my family and everything, just doing freelance work. And I found it's a lot of networking, and you've got to market yourself, and you've got to sell yourself in the sense that, hey, this is why you should hire me. Here's my portfolio. This is why I'm a good choice, X, Y, and Z. And so I did website work. Like, those were quick, but the real money's in software. Like, if you can land a software project, that's ideal. For an example, I landed a client, and this client paid out just over $100,000 over the course of 9 months, because he needed software built, not a simple little website. Okay. And so that provided very consistent income over the course of like 9 to 10 months. It was awesome. Let's see. Holy cow, we've got a lot of TikTok questions. Instagram, stick around. I'm going to get to your questions here in a moment. Okay. Let's see. What do you suggest? Oh, I just answered that one. Let's see. I'm an industrial security student. My dream is the question just went away. My dream is to build and manage the software for this per se. Okay, yeah, you totally can. I mean, if you have a software idea or you see something in that field, that needs a correction or whatever, definitely build software for it. Node.js. What about Node.js? Node.js is amazing. I love Node.js, especially being a web developer, because I can write all my server-side code in JavaScript. Node allows you to, it's a JavaScript runtime environment, which means it doesn't have to be ran just in the browser. So I can write all my server-side code in JavaScript. I don't have to go and learn a new programming language. And then I usually couple that with Express and then MongoDB for the database. Let's see. Hey guys, rock with advice. Too bad I had purchased a tutorial on Python before I found you guys here. Hey, if Python's fine if it lines up with your goal. I mean, some things you could do with Python is it's got a very broad general use. So you can do web development with it, game development, AI, machine learning. It's a great scripting language. So if you need to build something for like automations, it's fantastic. So a lot of things you can do with it. Shaggin VR, can you give tips to learn? So here's my advice learning. Okay. So I'm a self-taught developer. Okay. I did it on my own. It sucked. Okay. I questioned a lot, like, am I learning the right stuff? Are these the right tools to be learning to be successful in the field? How do I know when I'm ready to start freelancing or to apply for jobs? What should I expect during the whole, career transition, like for tech interviews and whatnot? Like, I didn't know, and I wasted a lot of time, trying to figure it all out. So just to give you some background here, DevSlopes is a learn to code company, and you can work with a mentor one-on-one, someone like me, and I will help teach you and help you learn how to code. We have a very guided a curated learning path, and I will help you with the career prep, how to build your resume, your LinkedIn, how to work with recruiters and negotiate salaries, what to expect in the technical interviews, and all that shenanigans. So go to devslopes.com/apply, and then just get set up with a free call with one of our career coaches. Ask whatever questions you want about the DevSlopes Academy. Find out if it's a good choice, a good move for you. And yeah, you'll get that one-on-one mentorship, everything that we talked about. It's fantastic stuff. And I wish I had something like that when I was first learning. Okay, part 2 to that question. Other tips for learning how to learn. So the first tip is really mentorship, having a developer to be able to ask questions to. That gives you direction. The second thing is you've got to build projects. You've got to learn to be in tutorials, spend time doing tutorials until you understand the concepts of it. Then you need to, leave mama bear, got to leave those tutorials, and you've got to start building projects. Okay. The key to being a developer is to learn how to learn and to learn how to solve problems. And you can't get that from a tutorial because you're just following along. You're not learning how to figure things out. So once you get the basics from tutorials, cut ties with it, start building your own projects, start spending more time in documentation, reading about the programming languages, look at different architectures, how to use it, reading books about it to understand it on that level. All right. I'm going to hop over here to Instagram. Instagram, you've been so patient. Holy smokes, you've been waiting for 20 minutes for me to stop talking? Jeez. Good night from India. Welcome, welcome. Node.js versus PHP. Node.js is awesome. PHP is gross. I mean, they're both great, but if you're doing web development, Node.js, like I said, it allows you to write JavaScript server-side. Okay, and it allows you to keep your server-side code completely extracted and separate from the front-end project, from the client side. PHP, it's fine. Okay, I'm not saying PHP is bad. It has a really gross syntax to it. Okay, it doesn't look pretty. It's gross to work with. Second is PHP injects itself into the UI. So if you want to use any of the server-side code that you wrote, all right, PHP is stuck to the front end. It's not reusable. Whereas I can write all my server-side code in Node. It's completely different repository. And then any project I build, I just have to tap into the API and I can make all these, calls and manage data. So that's why I choose Node. And especially if you're doing web development like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I don't have to go and learn a new programming language, something like PHP. Join the Tin Man. Love everything you do, man. Thank you so much, John the Tin Man. I appreciate it. Let's see. Which country are you in, please? I am in the United States, specifically down here in Southern Texas. Not born and raised here, but I moved here closer to the coast, to the beach. It's real nice out in the country, so it's quiet. Let's see. I recently completed CSS. Should I learn Bootstrap? You can learn Bootstrap, but primarily I would just move into JavaScript. So, and the reason being, like, Bootstrap is good for UI layouts, but everything that Bootstrap can do more or less, CSS3 can do it natively now. So you don't need to depend on a UI library or a CSS library. So CSS has Flexbox and the grid system now. If you were really wanting to expand on CSS skills, I would learn Sass, all right? That is used like crazy all over the industry. And so that's a skill that is highly valuable that companies are looking for, okay? Bootstrap is just, oh, cool, I know Bootstrap. But the next step, I would either do Sass or I'd dive straight into JavaScript. JavaScript is the meat and potatoes of everything, okay? I would spend 90% of your time doing everything you can to learn JavaScript. And then the HTML and CSS stuff, it just gets better along the way, right? Because there's building projects still. You don't have to master those two things yet. By nature, as a byproduct, you'll just get better at it. Omar, let's see. Hey, Jason, I remember you once said that building software is where the money is at. Did you mean like the back end? Because I didn't understand what you meant by software. All right, yeah, that's a great question. Let me clarify it a little bit here. All right, so when you're doing like freelance, for an example, most clients just need a website. Okay. It might be a little startup or something, or somebody who's starting a new business and they just need an online presence. Okay. And so it's just a little website. Websites are just like quick and, then you're done with it. And they're cheap. Clients are cheap. If you can land a software project, think of tools like Salesforce is a really big example, but things like, I don't know if you've ever used Trello or some type of CRM tool, or like a tool that a company would need and use to, okay, here's an example of a software project that I did, a real estate company. Okay, so I landed a software project with a real estate company when I was freelancing, and this particular tool needed to record different sales, or it needed to record different properties that were being managed, who was managing it, certain times that the property had maintenance on it, who the tenants were, and then it needed to be able to use email integration so they could send out emails to their staff. And there was different levels of staff, like you had the regular employees, admins, and then like product owners or whatnot. And so they needed different access levels to the things that they could do with this software. So that's what I mean by software, like an actual tool that somebody would use. All right, YouTube, I'm going to get over there in just a moment. Do you offer scholarships? I think you should. We don't offer scholarships. But I mean, DevSlopes has taught over 350,000 students how to code. We've got students working at Facebook, BMW, Fender. I don't know. There's some top companies and brands that our students are, working at now, and just going through our DevSlopes Academy, learning to code, self-taught developers with some guidance. Let's see. I want to know about front-end field in companies. So I'm not sure I exactly understand that question. Front end is just working on the client side of things. That means everything that a user sees is what you build as a front end developer. Now, also, it's not only the UI that you're building, it's interactive UIs. It's also connecting to APIs. All right. So there's a backend developer who builds all the API endpoints and manages the database. Okay. And then you as a front end developer are expected to have an understanding how to work with APIs, so that you can tap into those and feed data into the UIs. All right. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? All right, YouTube, what's going on? Let's see. For beginners, should I learn data structures and algorithms first? I mean, you can. It's important to learn at some point. And with that being said, you don't have to be an expert in those to get a job. They're important to understand so you can write more proficient code, but you also learn how to write more proficient code over time. All right. Like I've been coding for 6 months, or not 6 months, 6 years. I've been coding professionally for 6 years now. And every time I look back at code I wrote like 4 to 6 months ago, I'm like, ugh, like I could write that way better. And it's just because I'm progressively learning and progressively becoming more proficient as a developer. So learn the basics of algorithms, data structures. They also kind of come naturally as you're just learning to code. But yeah, good stuff to know. Link 1111. Okay, real question. Should we learn Unity and Unreal just in case? No, you don't have to learn Unreal just in case. You should decide what kind of game development you want to do. And you should, do a search for what has more opportunity as like career-wise. Like if you're looking to land a job, I don't know the answer to this. Is there more job listings for Unity developers or the Unreal Engine? All right. Now, if you're doing freelance work, it doesn't really matter. You can choose either or. But those are some of the things that I would consider when making that decision. But you don't have to learn both. That's just like overwhelming yourself with so much stuff, and you don't need to do that. Let's see. I want to become full stack. Does 1 year, is that enough, or is it far away? No, 1 year is definitely doable. So, and this is one of the cool things with web development. So I've said this a couple of times. If you learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then something like React or something, you can easily transition into a full stack developer working on the back end with Node, because you're just writing all your server side code and back end code with JavaScript. So you're not having to learn anything new. You're just learning some of the concepts about how APIs and databases work. And then you're just kind of applying a different architectural pattern to your JavaScript to make your, API calls and whatnot. But very doable. And with that being said, if you are looking for a job, it's easier to get in as just a front-end developer and then work your way into a full-stack developer. I really like this live and enjoy the way you demonstrate topics. Big love to you from Egypt. Oh, Mohammed, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Is the Jamstack good? I don't have any opinion on it. I've never worked with it, to be honest, like ever. Never spent a minute of my time in the Jamstack. So I'm not real familiar with the benefits and it has in the solutions it solves. Let's see, Daniel, hello, Jason. Dan, a student from your resources. I have this query as a junior self-taught developer. How can I be able to advance my search skills in the internet? Are you, I think I understand what you're saying. Are you talking about like basically how to Google better, how to find answers better? Because I know that is a challenge when you're a self-taught developer and you're trying to figure things out. Like, you know what it is you're trying to solve, but you have no idea how to word it. And so using Google can be frustrating because it's like, how do you, architect your sentence, like formulate a sentence to even Google what it is in your head you're trying to solve. My best advice with that is it really comes down to terminology and then understanding the different tools that are available to you to use to solve different problems. Like if you're working with a list of data, okay, that's going to be kept in an array. And then there might be different things you have to do with an array, like filtering or sorting or removing or adding items to it. And so you just use some of those keywords like add item in array or search for index in an array or how to work with nested arrays. And so it's kind of some of the syntax or the terminology that you'll want to learn. Heroku, oh my gosh, I can't even pronounce it. You know what I'm trying to say, Heroku or DigitalOcean for beginners, cost-wise. I've always used, not always, but I've never used Heroku. I've used DigitalOcean before, but I think Heroku has some free plans. I guess DigitalOcean does too. But I've never pushed anything to production with Heroku. So I don't have experience with it. I've just used DigitalOcean. Let's see, is there a great demand as full stack with C# and Angular? There's a lot of things that you can do with C# and there's lots of jobs I know for Angular. I've never done a specific search for C# to see the demand for them, but I know there is loads of jobs for Angular developers for sure. And it's cool because Angular is being a lot more adopted into the bigger companies like the corporate world and such, because it is a type-safe language. It has very strict practices and guidelines that it abides by. It uses TypeScript. And so a lot of companies like Angular. Let's see. Daniel says, yes, how to Google. Love the correction. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I know how you feel. I experienced the same thing when I was first learning to code. But yeah, you'll get the hang of it once you start learning some of the lingo and terminology. Rita Tech, you don't think cracks are slowing up the money in software? Because most softwares like Trello are usually free or have a free plan. They do, but they also have paid plans, and there's tons of companies. So when I'm talking about software, it can be anything, right? So for an example, I was a full stack developer at Dell Computers, and we were building an internal tool for the sales team. All right, something that would put together, quotes or bids for other companies, large companies like Walmart and whatnot, about bidding out, hey, this is how much it's going to cost for servers, and this is the CPU and the usage and the energy and blah 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 that it costs and how many admins it needs to run it. So there's a lot of companies that have internal pieces of software to fit their specific needs. All right. All right, we're past time here. I'm going to answer one more question from y'all, and then we're going to wrap up, and I'm going to get back to some code, and hopefully you are too. All right, Amir is Flutter or React Native. Do you have to pick one? They're both good. So I've done both. I've never done anything in production with both of them. So they're great cross-platform programming languages. They're both good for freelancing. Okay. They haven't really been adopted in the industry yet. Like companies aren't really looking for Flutter or React Native developers. So if you're looking to get a job with it, the market's going to be limited. There might be a handful of startup companies using it. All right. Instagram, it said low battery. So anyways, React Native takes more work to get up and running with. I think Flutter has a nicer syntax to it, and to get up and running with a Flutter project is so easy. The setup just to get a stinking React Native project to run can take a couple of hours. But it's cool once the project's up and going. All right, so that's a YouTube question. I'm moving on to TikTok, and then we're going to get to Instagram here. All right, I'm going to scroll through a couple of here. Okay, I'm just going to answer this one. What do you think about Next.js? I think it's awesome. I rebuilt the entire DevSlopes website using Next.js. It's a fantastic static site generator framework that's built on top of React. It's my go-to. I love it. How do you rate Ruby for beginners? I mean, it's fine if it lines up with what you want to do with programming. There is larger opportunity in other programming languages for jobs and freelancing other than Ruby. Ruby has a decent market, but if you're looking to land a job or do freelance, I would choose another programming language. Can you recommend a beginner to pro course, please? Yes, I can. DevSlopes Academy, hello. Go to devslopes.com/apply, and I will work with you personally to help teach you how to code. And then I'm going to work with you on the whole career prep stuff so you can get paid. And I'm going to teach you how to land freelance jobs and how to land an actual job if that's what you want to do. You've got lifetime access to me. Any questions you want to ask. We've got live weekly meetups. I do code reviews. So you're going to turn in assignments, and I'm going to be brutal. I'm going to look at your code and give you some blunt feedback on it because I want my students to be successful. There's no time for feelings here, right? We're just wanting to learn how to code. So I'm going to, be blunt. I mean, I'm nice, but I'm going to, steer you in the direction of this is good practices. This isn't so good because I want you to be successful, right? So that's what I do. Okay, that's enough. TikTok, thank you. Let's see. I'm going to move on to Instagram. I'm going to take one or two questions. All right. Let's see. Someone asks, I have the early bird coupon for the class that starts after Thanksgiving. Do I have to wait for you guys to call me, or do I have to do something? Oh, that's such a good question. Dev Fernie, if you are still on the stream, what I would do is I'd reach out to Nathan at devslopes.com. All right. And ask him. I don't know the answer to that. I am just the teacher instructor dude. I don't manage any of those coupons. So again, reach out to Nathan at devslopes.com to ask about that coupon. Let's see. All right. This might be all the questions. I know I'm skipping over some of them. I can't get to everything. Future of Angular and TypeScript. It's fantastic. If you learn it, you'll be set for life until the next big thing comes along, but it's not going away anytime soon. What do you think more, best Android developer, iOS developer? As far as job opportunities and freelance opportunities, I would say they're pretty much equal. Salaries are pretty much equal, more or less. If you have an iPhone, then you should learn iOS because you obviously like iOS phones, devices, Apple. If you have an Android phone, definitely learn Android. You're going to learn Kotlin, right? Because you have an Android phone. So that's what you should do. Okay, I can't answer the rest of these questions. I'm so sorry, Instagram. Anyways, everybody, thank you so much for joining today's stream. Don't leave yet, all right? Because if you are serious about making an absolute life change, okay? Learning to code has completely changed my life in every aspect. If you are serious about wanting to learn how to code and you want some guidance, some direction, someone to review your code, someone to work with you, a mentor one-on-one, someone who is going to help you get a job and get paid, then go to devslopes.com/apply. get set up with a free career coaching call. Ask any questions you want about the DevSlopes Academy. Ask them if I'm a cool person to work with and if I'm legit enough. And yeah, do that. If you are looking to take your development skills to the next level, DevSlopes has these 30-day code challenges, all right, for JavaScript and Swift. So if you're interested in that, whether you're a beginner or you have some experience coding already, go to 30daycodechallenge.com. All right, 30daycodechallenge.com to sign up for the next 30-day challenge. I think it starts in a couple of weeks. We just started another one a couple of weeks ago. So that starts in a couple of weeks. So go there and you're going to love it, because guess what? I teach it and you're going to love it. So anyways, that's all for today. As always, stay safe, stay positive, and go code. All right. See you tomorrow.